Hi, my name is Ellie Campbell. I'm the principal herpetologist here at the Akron Zoo, which means I take care of all the reptiles and amphibians, along with my coworker Kyle. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Komodo dragon natural history. So as you've seen or will see in this video footage, Draco, our female Komodo dragon, is very excited to eat some food out of an enrichment box, a glove box. So enrichment here is anything that's a little bit different, like a toy or a new scent, or maybe even trying a new food that we give to our animals here. So Komodo dragons are from primarily 4 different islands. That would be Komodo, Flores, Rinca, and Padar. Our male Komodo dragon's actually named Padar after the island. Komodo dragons have a lot of really cool features about them. They have several rows of teeth, so they can have up to 5 sets of teeth. So when we lose baby teeth, Komodo dragons lose a lot of their teeth. So Komodo dragons have several rows of teeth ready to come in, and their jaws are really great for biting onto and pulling and dragging their food item. So as an adult, like Draco behind us, they will eat all different kinds of large food items, so they'll go after large prey, or they're scavengers as well, so they'll eat a whole bunch of carrion. But when baby Komodo dragons hatch out, they'll actually eat insects and bird eggs and small mammals until they're about 8 months to a year old, and then they'll come down out of the trees and start to make their home range. Their home range is about 1 square mile, which really isn't that terribly large, but they will overlap home ranges. Here you can see our Komodo dragon really enjoys her home range in our Komodo exhibit, complete with the pool. Komodo dragons do really enjoy swimming. They're found in a variety of habitats, including on beaches, and our female Komodo dragon actually will sleep underwater on an occasion and pop up like a crocodile, which is quite exciting. When Komodo dragons are full grown, they can weigh over 360 pounds and get over 9 feet long, which is very large. I have been asked before if Komodo dragons can breathe fire. They cannot breathe fire, unfortunately, but like I said, they've got a lot of really cool features. So you might notice our Komodo dragon will stick out her tongue, and her tongue is forked. They can sense what direction a smell is coming from. So imagine you're walking down the street and you smell a really good smell coming from a restaurant. You have to stop and look around in order to find out what restaurant it is. A Komodo dragon can stick out their tongue, and depending on what side of their tongue they're sensing that smell on, they can figure out where that particular smell is coming from through the use of an organ on the top of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. Now, Komodo dragons don't shed their skin in one piece like you see with a snake. They will shed it in multiple different pieces, and part of that is because their skin is so tough. So they will duke it out for territory and food sometimes, but for the most part they're relatively peaceful animals. So when Komodo dragons reproduce, there is a potential that female Komodo dragons can undergo something called parthenogenesis. Now I know that's a very big, long, scary word, but what that really means is that the female can self-reproduce without a male. So think Jurassic Park a little bit. And we're very lucky here because Draco's sister Charlie at the Chattanooga Zoo actually was successful in parthenogenesis. So her sister was able to self-create eggs, which is just absolutely fantastic. Now, Komodo dragons do have different kinds of nesting behaviors depending on what island they're from. And they're very particular about how they approach nesting. So just like those of you at home might be very particular in how you set up a nursery, Komodo dragons very much feel the same way. Now my coworker Kyle, the lead ectotherm keeper, will come over and give a quick talk on what we are doing in the exhibit, how we work with Draco and Padar, and some of the techniques we use here at the Akron Zoo.
Hey everybody, this is Keeper Kyle at the Akron Zoo here. I'm a keeper in the Komodo building, working with all of our ectotherms, and today I'm here to talk about our Komodo dragons, Draco, our female dragon, and Padar, our male dragon. Draco's been at the Akron Zoo just about as long as I have, so she's been here for I believe 8 years now. She's 9 years old, and Padar came here in 2016 from Nashville, and he is 8 years old currently. They both have October birthdays coming up. Draco will be the big double-digit 10 years old. We're very excited for her. They are both around 80 pounds. Padar is slightly larger at 82 pounds, and Draco is 80 pounds as of this month. Komodo dragons are pretty impressive predators in the wild. They are kind of ambush predators. They will wait until something kind of gets close to them and then strike out much quicker than you would think. And they have very powerful limbs as well as a powerful jaw with a number of small serrated teeth that can really inflict serious damage upon to their prey. And at which point they can just kind of wait for the prey to fall victim to secondary infection, and they are actually gorge feeders, and they will eat quite an impressive amount at once once they finally do get prey. If you're at the Akron Zoo, you may notice that we only have one dragon on exhibit at a time. Komodos tend to be solitary animals in the wild, and we do not let our female Draco and our male Padar interact. This is for a couple reasons. One being that there could be aggression between the two animals since they don't tend to live too close to their kin. Another being that we do not have a breeding recommendation for these two animals at the moment, so keeping them separate is the safest way to ensure that's not an issue. Our dragons alternate their days on exhibit. So right now behind me, Draco is on the exhibit, and she's on exhibit every odd day of the week. So the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, etc. And Padar is out on the even days of the calendar. Now you might ask, where's the other dragon when that's happening? So behind the exhibit, we actually have holding spaces and an outdoor yard where they can go and get some natural sunlight, which they really seem to like in the summer months. So don't worry, they are still getting spoiled in the back, even if you don't see them on the day you visit the zoo. Our dragons also get a decent amount of enrichment. They really love anything that is smell oriented. Ellie kind of talked about their forked tongues, and that's a huge sense for any reptiles, but especially these guys, in being able to track down any meat for them to consume and just kind of know a bit more about their surroundings. We can use spices, even some mild perfumes. We can use feathers from quails and chickens and things like that, and kind of scatter them throughout exhibits or throughout certain enrichment items, and the dragons love to just kind of investigate that stuff. You might be able to see that there's actually a box on exhibit that looks somewhat teared into, and that actually had some of Draco's food items in it, and she was able to knock it down from the top of her log and then kind of tear it open to get to her food item, which is really good enrichment for the dragons. We do go in with our dragons, despite Komodo dragons being very powerful predators and somewhat relatively dangerous animals. We have worked with our dragons since they were born, and we have established a good relationship with them. We will enter their exhibit spaces to do training procedures as well as kind of engage in tactile sessions. The main use for this is if a dragon was ever not feeling well and needed veterinary procedures, we could actually do those procedures with the dragon still awake and alert without kind of causing fear to the dragon, because our training will actually aid us in these procedures. This is an example of a target stick. So this is Draco's, and what this is we'll tap this kind of on a ground or on a surface, and Draco will see the movement and recognize the shape, color, symbol on the end of the target and come to put her nose to the actual target. Now that's very useful for being able to position her. Say we needed to get an X-ray or an MRI on her, we could actually put the equipment into a space and then have her walk over it to get a picture rather than have to restrain her, which would kind of make her very nervous and could put our vet staff at risk. Anytime you can do a medical procedure with cooperation from the animal is ideal in every circumstance. We'll also go in and do nail trims. If their nails are getting too long, it could cause foot damage, as well as we could do blood draws. So for reptiles, if you needed to check on their well-being, you could draw blood from the actual base of their tail. So you'll see sometimes when we're going in doing those tactile sessions, we'll actually do a minor tail lift just to get the dragons used to that sensation of, hey, somebody might be holding my tail for a second, everything's calm. Of course, we can reward all these kind of behaviors and trainings with either scratches, which they seem to really enjoy, especially when they're shedding excess dry skin, as well as food motivation, kind of when we're done with the session. Food is a good way to motivate anybody, people included. After we target a dragon to a station, if we are going to engage in a tactile procedure, what you often see us do is get a scratcher on a stick, more or less, and this allows us to make first contact with the dragon from a distance. If the dragon was agitated in some way and going to lash out, I would much rather her do it at a stick rather than my arm. Once we kind of test the waters and ensure that everyone's calm with a tactile session, we will engage and move closer, at which point the stick becomes more of a blocker. You'll notice that when we're doing the tactile sessions, we'll actually have a pull on the back side of their neck, not pressing or anything like that, just kind of resting a bit that way. Dragons have a spine that moves very left to right instead of up and down. If you see a cheetah running, you kind of see the spine really elongate up and down. Dragons, reptiles, and fish have to move a little bit more left to right. That's kind of why they swing their arms when they're walking. So that pull to the left or right of the neck just makes sure that if something did happen, that they can't spin around and get whoever's doing the tactile session. So it's without restraint, it's another level of protection for the keepers. Ellie mentioned a bit about their natural diet, where they'll take down large boars when they're adults, or when they're small, they'll eat grasshoppers and small bugs. At the zoo, our adult diets are kind of in flux. Dragons don't necessarily eat every day. They have a slower metabolism than us, so they kind of eat a large meal, and then they have a couple days of fasting, and then they'll get another large meal. So Draco will get anything from whole chickens to rats, rabbits, quail, chickens, herring, various other fish, or Nebraska, which is like a type of ground beef kind of thing, like a red meat. Padar primarily gets that Nebraska ground beef diet, and that's because of a very interesting medical situation he has going on. He actually is deficient in a pancreas enzyme. When Padar came to us, he was very underweight for a dragon, and we discovered through a couple clinical trials and things that he was actually not producing an enzyme in his pancreas. Now, enzymes from the pancreas are very important for breaking down proteins, and if you're a carnivore, you pretty much only eat proteins, and you really need those enzymes to break down the proteins and get the actual energy from your diet. He didn't have some of those enzymes, so he was kind of more so passing food whole without really getting the nutritional value. Thankfully that there is a supplement that we can just kind of mix in with his food that kind of does the work of these enzymes. So we'll do that now, give it to him, and his body condition looks amazing. He's actually bigger than Draco now by a couple pounds without actually being overweight. So Padar usually gets that Nebraska with that supplement mixed in, but he kind of goes through a same process of a large feed and then little bits of feed or fast days and then another large feed, because they have that slower metabolism. Alright everybody, thanks for coming down and learning about Komodo dragons. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for the next Lunch and Learn, and we look forward to seeing you guys all soon.